Awesome, and welcome to our presentation this afternoon. Thank you for joining us, all of you who can make it this afternoon. But my name is Maria Lemelier, joined with Mr. Joseph Hatton, and today we're just going to provide some thoughts and insights into linking what schools are trying to achieve into the PEP. And of course, we're from the South Island, so we're also drawing on things that we have done in the South. So as you can follow along with the PowerPoint that we have alongside. So just 6 things that we're going to look into. So there's an opportunity for each and every one of you to ask some questions as we go through this presentation, and also at the end of the session there is also a slide. So if you don't have any questions today or this afternoon, we are more than happy to provide feedback on anything that you would like to discuss further. So who are we? So just a brief there, Mr. Hatton and myself, and what I'll do, the way it's going to work this afternoon is that I'll talk for the first part and my colleague here will take over. So our details are on the slide here if you wish to contact us or just to ask any more questions about what we present this afternoon. So who am I? As mentioned, my name is Maria, and on the slide you can see pictures of my family. So one of the reasons why I got into education is my lovely dear mother, and so I'm the eldest of 4, born and bred one-eyed Cantabrian, so I'm chicha hard. So one of the good things growing up in my household is that there was a strong focus on education, and my mother read to me as a young child. My parents migrated from Samoa in the late 60s, and they came straight to Christchurch, so no hanging about in Auckland. So as you can see and tell, my family are very Christchurch born, raised, and so on. So there's 4 of us. I'm the oldest but the shortest out of all of us. And our family have a wide range of different experiences to share. My brother's a cop. My second brother after him is a bit of a sports fanatic. And our youngest brother is an awesome dad and provider for his young family. My experience in education, so spent some time overseas teaching in Japan and South Korea, and also some time in the bank with the University of Canterbury as their Pasifika liaison. So what I bring to the table in regards to education in secondary school is are our students well prepared from the secondary school heading into tertiary and vice versa. I've only been in the game for teaching secondary for a small time, 2.5 years now, teaching at Shirley. However, what I like to talk about also today is not the experience I bring in my time at schools, but what I bring from a long history of working with young people in schools as well as offshore as well. Mr. Hatton.
Very good. So welcome aboard this presentation. Just to add my welcome to you. So my name's Joseph, as Maria said, and I'm working at Shirley Boys. I've been working there for the last 5 years, with 2 years previously at Marion College, which is also in Christchurch. And I suppose from early times, at the top left picture there is my grandparents with their 4 children at the time, and the youngest one there down the bottom with the curly hair is my mother. So my grandmother's from the Cook Islands, and they moved their family here in the late mid 60s really. And you can see there in the middle is kind of the next generation. So their 5 children went on to have 18 children among them, and this is actually at our wedding, my wife and my wedding in 2008. And then this next generation is my 3 eldest children, and the youngest one's not pictured. So for me, I've got a vested interest in education, not only because I want to ensure that the society in which I live and that my children grow up in is a healthy and kind of thriving one with respect to education, but also because of the kind of, I think, social justice, we owe it to all our people in New Zealand, irrespective of ethnicity, to ensure that they succeed. So my interest in Pacific education not only comes from my own heritage, but also my desire to see people who are a little bit below the line striving to get above the line. So yeah, that's me. So we've been working over the last couple of years at Shirley Boys to ensure that we can put some sound structures in place to make sure that our students at Shirley Boys have everything they need to succeed within an educational context without neglecting things like sport and other co-curricular pursuits.
Okay, so as mentioned, we've got a list of like 6 things that we're going to work through today. So what does Pacifica look like down in the south? So when we recently presented at an Auckland conference, many of our colleagues were like, oh, there are Pacifica people down south. There's quite a few. And to demonstrate the numbers and the growing numbers on the screen, where are we here? Oh, yes. So as you can see, the recent statistics show a significant increase of Pacifica peoples in the South Island, and hence why there is a need to have systems in place to be able to cope with the large growing number of Pacifica peoples coming through. Statistics have also shown that by 2050, around 63% of New Zealand's population will identify as being Māori and Pacific. So down the bottom there of the screen in yellow, and then as you can see, just the increase of Pacifica peoples in comparison to maybe our European friends. So we're all growing quite quickly and large numbers as well. So with the growing numbers in the South Island as well, what do we have in place to help in regards to education? So our second slide that we have here. So I'm just going to talk briefly about 3 things around collaboration. So probably something that's already happening up north, and what we've taken on board now as well is the cluster model. So schools working alongside, ranging from early childhood all the way to secondary. So there's that continual conversation around what works well for our people and our communities. So what will necessarily work in one side of town may not work on another. So it's having that continual dialogue and conversation through principals, teachers, as well as communities, just to talk around what works well for Pacifica, and just engaging families as well. Number 2, specifically Pacific. So I've had the privilege and pleasure of being part of a group of organisations that come together, and something similar to maybe what other cities run as well. But the benefit of being from the south as well, or from Christchurch, is that we have a small enough community to be able to work in alliance with each other. So for example, we'll have like universities, government agencies, alongside the Pacifica Teachers Association. So we run events throughout the year, and the good thing that we do well is because we work together, there's no clashes of events. Things that may be run by the university or by government organisations are calendared out. So we sit on a committee, and we have a strong relationship with the principals of contributing schools, as well as a good relationship with MOE. All of these events are calendared throughout the year. We have an agreement with the Pacifica Teachers Network to ensure that all of these events occur in the first half of the year. So there's that memorandum of understanding or agreement that at the end of the day, it's about raising achievement and awareness for our young people. So things like speech competitions, Polyfest, careers exposed, and workshops occur in the first half of the year, and in the second half of the year there's a memorandum of understanding with all the contributing organisations that there are events that happen. They are to assist and to further develop our students in preparing for end of year examinations or extra work that needs to be completed. So we have a full year view of how things should work with our young people. But the awesome thing about specifically Pacific group is that it's always consulting with our community. So on this committee, as such, as about 12 of us, we have like elders as well as past teachers and representatives from different universities as well as government agencies, all working together to provide the best possible outcome for our students. So as you can see on the slide there, at the end of the year we have a celebration, or towards the end of the year we have a celebration of our high achievers academically. And so that year we had some MPs come along as well as our local MPs, and we also have some other dignitaries, just to provide that special kind of feeling for our parents and our families that we do care about them, and that we do have not only local involvement but also national interest from around the country. Lastly, number 3, we have Pasifika Teachers Association. So as you can see there, we're a small number of teachers, but currently there's around about 30 to 35 teachers of Pasifika descent. We meet regularly, once or twice a term, and there's a newsletter that goes out to all of our teachers just to keep in contact. And for our Pasifika teachers, sometimes we always get lumped with extra work in regards to, we may be an English teacher or a maths teacher, a PE teacher, primary school teacher, but sometimes we also get asked to look after our Pacifica students, and if there's anything that arises. So it's an opportunity where we come together, meet. We also provide opportunities for professional development. So for us as well, our I guess bigger picture is not only just to raise awareness for our students and our families and communities, but also to strengthen as well as to encourage professional development and moving through those, whether you're going on to senior management or ultimately a principal, but just providing that sense of networking and so on as well. So that's just very briefly on what's happening in the world of collaboration. But I'll just hand it over to Mr. Houghton here.
So part of the what we need to make sure that we're doing as schools is actually working within the framework which I suppose the Ministry of Education have provided for us. So from my perspective, there's no point in reinventing the wheel, and a lot of kind of, as I see, the systems and the ideas of what we need to start to do are already contained within the Pacific Education Plan, which has had many revisions over the last decade or so. So the most current one, the one that's in a sense active now, is the 2013 to 2017 one. And in relation to what Maria said about collaboration, I think we can take from the Pacific Education Plan an encouragement and a platform from which to launch these kinds of initiatives. And so the quote that I've pulled out is that deliberate and systematic use of a holistic approach and using existing communities, venues and networks to access Pacifica parents, families and learners to support their well-being and learning from beginning to end is a desired outcome. So schools, I think, what we're encouraging, I suppose, is that schools link into things like specifically Pacific in Christchurch or any existing teachers networks that exist to provide that support. So the next topic we're going to touch on is building capability within our schools, and we're going to just draw on some of our own experiences here. So at Shirley Boys, we've got a detailed Pacific Education Plan, but our basic aims, not going into specifics, our basic aims are to develop our staff in school, to engage our school community, to engage and develop our students socially, for example in regards to leadership and other activities, and to engage and develop our students academically. And so that last one is possibly the most important thing. So in order to achieve level 2, 85% by the time our students are 18, whatever goals we might set ourselves with regards to NCA level 1, whatever goals we might set ourselves with regards to our junior students, year 9 and 10, achieving at the various curriculum levels. If we want to achieve that last one, to help our students achieve academically, we need to make sure that if the first 3 are done properly, Okay, so often people might try and leap ahead and say, oh, we want, our bottom line is we need students to achieve 85% level 2, okay, as part of the public service goals for the country. But our view is that those first three things, staff and school, community, and making sure our students are socially engaged at our school, we can't do the last one without the first three. Okay, so they are the four kind of things that underpin our approach to Pacific education at Shirley Boys. And so there's a bit of an image I suppose we could put to that. This is just something we designed for a I think it was our school magazine, I'm not sure actually, but it kind of captures the essence. So at the top left we've got one of our students who was attending the TEDx Christchurch conference. Okay, so we wanted to make sure that before he left, okay, we knew he was going on to university, so we had the opportunity to take one of our students along. So we wanted to make sure that he was able to hook into this kind of idea of innovation and creativity and what's going on in the world around him, because often we can kind of be quite insulated within like a bit of a bubble within our own communities. Okay, so this was a chance for him to go along and hear inspiring and innovative people throughout from around the country and around the world. And this year we've decided to, because TEDx is actually coming up in 4 days in Christchurch, so on November the 1st we're taking 5 of our Māori and Pacific students to TEDx. Up the top right we've got 4 guys that collected for Red Cross, part of a kind of a community awareness initiative. Red Cross have been supporting a lot of schools in Christchurch since the earthquake. And so as part of their support, we wanted to ensure that our students had the opportunity to give back to the Red Cross, who had been helping us. Okay, so as well as doing that, we had also later in the year we had a group of half a dozen boys going collecting for the Women's Refuge, again to engage our boys socially. Okay, so both of those things have been in order to engage our boys socially. Going down to that middle third, we've got our boys involved in Polyfest, which is kind of our stereotypical traditional way of engaging our students. But again, not all of our students engage with that. So out of the 80 to 100 Pacific students we may have, we really only have around 30 students involved in that. So that doesn't manage to capture all of our students. So that's why it's so important to have other things. And down the bottom left and the bottom right, we've got boys that have been involved in leadership camps and other things, where they get to learn a little bit more about our society and leadership, and so we get to engage them socially. So all those things come together hopefully to create a more engaged student, where they can then use that platform to launch into more successful academic outcomes. Okay, so what questions do we need to ask in relation to achieving some of those outcomes that come from our Pacific Education Plan that we've specifically designed for our school? Okay, so in regards to the first point, developing staff in school, we need to ask, what do our staff need or not need in order to be more effective in catering for these students, and what do we need to do at the departmental, so for example English, Maths, Science level, or house level, okay, as in the pastoral side of things, in order to ensure Pacific success. So if we look at the Pacific Education Plan, the desire there is to increase the knowledge, confidence and skills of the staff, build Pacific competencies across the education workforce. Okay, so that's directly there. So we need to take that and say, how does that apply to our school? So for us this year, we encouraged staff to take on any tertiary study. So for example, we had 5 staff who were undertaking some was postgraduate, and some was at the 300 level through Massey University. And so Massey offers papers specifically aimed at enabling the participants of those papers to engage with Pacific communities and also engage with policy around Pacific education. Okay, so building an understanding and knowledge of the Pacific Education Plan, or the Pacific Education Plans that have existed over the last decade or so or more. We have had staff PD where we've had guests come in, but also given staff time to develop the things that they already do suited to some of the some of and encourage tools this in front of them. Example, um, and not or as to his Okay. So, our school. So, offers what was our on the week. That will be time on we'll get watch teacher. Um, and the parents were actually we know um, number. From memory, to use. parents was sitting around about 50%. So quite a discrepancy in terms of the numbers. The next question we have to ask is, are we trying to address this? So are we trying to make sure that we are not making mistakes in regards to how we go about inviting people to parent-teacher interviews? And are we providing opportunities for Pacifica parents to engage with the school? Often, as teachers, we can say, "Oh, it's not our problem if the parents don't come." But if we are wanting to have a full, connected, engaged community, then I think we need to make it our problem and actually seek not to see it as a conflict issue, but rather as an issue that we want to make sure we're succeeding at rather than failing. Are we providing opportunities for Pacifica parents to engage with the school? And this is definitely something we're still working on. Are there opportunities at different times of the day? Are parents invited in appropriate ways? Is a letter sent home? Is an email sent home? Is a note sent home? Are we trying to be creative in ways? We're looking at, in fact, social media strategies at the moment, how we can engage parents, because again, a lot of people are on things like Facebook. So how can we use that to our advantage educationally? Not being afraid of those options. We expect students and parents to communicate clearly with us, but do we expect the same from ourselves? Are we communicating effectively? And if not, what are we doing to change that? And again, falling in alignment with the goals within the Pacifica Education Plan. Pacifica parents, families and communities support and champion their children's learning and achievements. Parents, families and communities are better informed, more knowledgeable and demanding consumers of education services. So if we're not achieving that goal, then we need to ask ourselves the question and our community the question. So I don't think there's a problem with asking our community a question of what they want, how they want it. Engaging and developing our students socially. So are our students represented across the school? So for example, at the top tier in regards to leadership, prefects or house captains, are our Pacific students represented? Okay, how are we being specific in enabling this? And how are we ensuring, and this is possibly one of the more important ones, how are we ensuring effective transitions from secondary to tertiary institutions? Often we'll kind of moan about primary teachers not necessarily handing on the students to us in an appropriate manner or an appropriate form. Are we doing the same with regards to tertiary? These are questions we need to ask ourselves. And linking directly back into the PEP there, Pacific school leavers are socially equipped to achieve their goals for further education, training or employment. So if we're not at that point, we need to start asking ourselves those questions. Again, kind of coming to the end of our plan in regards to the academic ability of our students, I suppose we need to say, what does the data tell us about our Pacific students compared to a whole range of different things, i.e. the rest of the school, other specific groups within the school, national averages, okay, and what are we specifically doing to address the shortfalls? So with regards to NCA Level 1, a couple of years ago in 2012, I think it was, we did an analysis of the results from 2012, just NCA Level 1, and so we noticed that out of our 18 students in Level 1, by the end of the year, only 3 seem to have achieved Level 1 properly. Okay, a lot of the other ones did go on to achieve, but compared to the mainstream, we weren't stacking up that well. So we for the next year, 2013, we put in place a bit more of a mentoring program, so we could accompany some of the students along and see how their results were going on a regular basis, and encourage form teachers to do the same with those guys. And we had some great results with guys achieving at a much higher level. And in fact, the next year in 2014, of the cohort we had within the Year 11 Pacific students, almost all of them ended up achieving Level 1 that year. And sure, there was a few, the odd one that left Shirley and went to another school, which we were unable to kind of keep track of. But the vast majority did achieve that. This year, just having looked at some of the results, it's mid-October or late October now. About a week ago or so, I looked at our Year 11 results, and I noted that 5 of our 20 guys had already achieved Level 1, with a lot of them set to achieve it within the next couple of weeks. So one of the things I decided to do was send a letter home from the principal and myself, encouraging those parents and thanking them for their commitment to education, and congratulating the boys, so that they could see that the school was very keen to see them succeed. So again, Pacific success is something that the Pacific Education Plan really desires, and we need to make sure that we are seeing that within our school. So strengthening the academic foundations of our Pacific students, we're not going to be able to achieve good academic outcomes unless we do that. And it's not all about culturally responsive teaching, but it's about often assisting students to achieve in traditional ways as well. Okay, so if a student is really struggling in algebra and he's got an algebra test coming up in 2 weeks, then we need to make sure he's good at algebra. Okay, so it's really, for me, it's as simple as that. And so sometimes academic pathways can be difficult to navigate. Okay, and often the students can't necessarily see what these qualifications are leading them to. So making those kind of things clear to them is crucially important. And so, again, with the Pacific Education Plan, this should be part of our own vision, that learners excel in literacy and numeracy and make effective study choices that lead to worthwhile qualifications. So often you hear students talking about whether a qualification is relevant to them. We need to ensure that they know that it is and why it is. So I think Maria and I are both going to just talk a little bit about affecting some change within communities and institutions now. And so Maria, as she said, has worked with in the tertiary sector for a while, and so no doubt she would have seen some changes kind of coming and going from there. And again, I'm only working in the secondary sector at the moment, so some changes within those. So I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about UC and your experiences there.
So one of the good things of not jumping ship, but being on the other side of the coin, and what Joe talked about is affecting change within institutions, is that we have a better relationship with tertiary institutions and working alongside what our needs are. So back in the day, it used to be about recruiting students, bums on seats for universities or for polytechs, but now working with schools and incorporating the plan as well, is are our students tertiary capable? Do they have the credits required for entry? And are they post first year in a position to be able to survive first year university? So it's not about getting the credits for university entrance as such, but will they be in a position to complete successfully their course, their diploma, their degree that they are aiming towards as well. So essentially, so we're looking at point number one, our Pacific students and communities being valued. By having that open conversation, that two-way dialogue, we're able just to see a bit more the needs of our communities and our students, and also essentially from the tertiary perspective. And I know that they're working hard to ensure, like, instead of our students taking 3 or 5 years to complete their degree or their course or their diploma, ensuring that they complete it in a satisfactory amount of time, and whether they're actually doing things that they're actually wanting to do, and not back in the day of like when everyone wanted to be a doctor or a lawyer. Management, middle and senior, aware of the situation regarding Pacific students. Joe? So,
for example, often, like, the thing that I hear is that often when there's a Pacifica teacher on the staff, often a lot of the responsibility for Pacific students will get lumped on those staff. So HODs, deans, DPs, APs, principals, headmasters, are they stepping up and taking responsibility? I can see that no principals, or my principal's not watching this, so I can say this. Hopefully he might watch it later. Sorry, John. But I think the point there is, are our HODs especially taking responsibility for ensuring that Pacific students and multi students as well as another group of priority learners, are they succeeding in their departments? And if they're not, then I suppose they need to ask the questions of why not. So again, I've had HODs talk to me before and say, they make very stereotypical kind of remarks about why Pacific students don't actually succeed in their subjects, or why are there no Pacific students doing year 13 physics, chemistry, biology at the school? And my response is, you are the person in the whole school that should know the answer to that question. And I can say categorically, I don't necessarily know that, because I'm not a teacher of physics. I've never tried to teach physics, year 13 physics or chemistry, to a Pacifica student. So you need to make sure that you're having those conversations with those teachers. Okay, and I see that as part of the role of middle management, making sure that they are given a specific responsibility for that subject. So they need to ensure that they are finding the answers to those questions. And so then lastly, that brings us to that last point. Is the success of Pacific students written into key documents that govern the school? For example, the strategic plan. Is it reflected in departmental goals? Is it part of the appraisal program process? And again, not as a punishment kind of thing, punishing the teachers who aren't having success with Pacific students, but making sure that those staff feel that it is a priority and that they are supported. I think those questions need to be asked as well. And so that brings us to the Pacific Education Plan again, where it says that we need to work collaboratively to become more urgent and more measurement driven and more transparent about Pacific achievement. So that transparency I see as making sure that we can ask those questions without controversy. Looking at the stats that come out at the end of the year or at the start of the year about the previous year, and how did we go as a department? If we can sit around the table and say, 50% of our Pacific students passed English this year, then I think that's a positive thing, that at least we're having the conversation, even if the result's not that good. Okay, so I think becoming more transparent and sharing that knowledge among the staff first, and then maybe even with the parents, and if there is an issue, making sure that is communicated clearly to the parents, because often parents will not know that there's an issue. It doesn't matter whether you're Māori, Pacific, European, Asian, whatever. Often the parents will not know that there's an issue if the school is not effectively communicating that to them. And again, often the school can feel as though they're communicating well with them by sending home newsletters, sending home all kinds of things. But if the connections aren't being made, then we're not doing as well as we should. I've just put here, and Maria's dealt with some of the clusters in Christchurch, but I think the issues that need to be considered at this level are student achievement. So if there's a group of schools, that are within a couple of kilometres of each other, but none of them know how engaged what their achievement rates are, then, because we're dealing with brothers and sisters and cousins and families who are attending a cluster of schools. Okay, but if we don't know what's going on between us, then we are hindered by that. If a school down the road from me is hosting a community event like a parents' night or something like that, and I don't know about that, and I'm trying to, and this is what Maria talked about with SpecPack, if we are kind of mucking up our calendars, then we're not going to be as effective as we could be. And if I'm at Shirley Boys, let's say Avonside Girls down the road is having a parents' night, and all my students' parents and sisters are going there that night, and then a couple of weeks later I try and have one, perhaps there's an option for us to work together and to be more effective, okay, to kind of hit it from two different angles, okay. And lastly, I think teacher and workforce issues can be addressed in the cluster with the possible, if there's a shortage of Pacific teachers, why can't we work together within our clusters and perhaps offer incentives for teachers to come into our cluster. I know that lots of schools are crying out for teachers of subjects like Samoan and Māori, but also just for general subjects, science, physics, chemistry, maths, English. Often, if we want Pacific faces on those subjects, we need to make sure that we are an attractive package. Okay, we are in a sense just another employment opportunity, and we need to make sure that we're an attractive employment opportunity for teachers, new graduates coming out from all over the country, not just waiting for them to come to us, but perhaps even going to them.
Just on that note, Joe, in regards to the cluster model working for how well it can work for Pacifica. So in that sense, so you've got like primary schools as well as intermediate and high schools. So an opportunity that arose for Joe and I last year is for our school, we have entrance exams for into year 9. So for Joseph and I, we went to our local intermediate and had met some of the teachers as well as the students who were about to sit their big year 9 or their entrance exam for our school. And so it was just a informal chat. We had a little checklist of, things to do, like make sure to get good sleep, eat a healthy dinner, and so on and so forth, and things to revise. So in regards to that cluster model, we were able to provide some friendly faces for these young Māori and Pasifika boys coming into our school in the following year, and also just to have that frank conversation of our expectations of what are you going to expect in this year 8 exam, and then just having like a little kōrero around, what's high school going to be like, and it's fostering those relationships. It's allowing and enabling those boys to have familiar faces, so when they do come across to our school in the year 9, they're like, oh, that's the Mr. Hutton and Miss Lemele who came to visit us. And also Joe and I have a good relationship with one of our principals, Mr. Jessiave, who invites us to their Pasifika nights. And that's really good because we get to meet parents of boys that are coming through, and also meeting other teachers who are working with Pasifika families and being able to provide advice as well as guidance, and vice versa. They're able to give us a heads up of communities that are coming through. So in regards to the cluster model for Pasifika, it's an amazing opportunity just to have that conversation and networking from as early as early childhood right through to secondary, and with our good relationship with our tertiary or post-high school organisation, is you can just see how this works really well, not only for raising achievement but also raising the profile of our Pasifika communities. Thanks, Joe. I'm also aware of time. Hello, we've only got like 10 minutes left.
So I think again, for example, last week I just sent out a survey to our schools to try and get a better idea of how things are going. Our feeder schools. So that's an try and to start off with. Yeah. This answer. Section the last. It's going to and encourage. encouraging role. One of the things that we try to do, at least here, is get some role models. Boys. And again, we cast and out of 100 students, there might get who knows. A couple of